Sergeant, why are you still here? You were only granted observer status, not actual combat training. The small woman didn't respond. She placed her sniper rifle on the table, connected it to the control device. The screen lit up. 3 to 27 confirmed. Black Vulture. An old training instructor froze. She's not here to learn. She used to lead SD9 Squad, Nevada SEAL Training Base. Scorching July heat. Nina Valdez, 28 years old, just transferred from a technical specialist exchange program. Nobody at the base knew her background. She appeared with a suspiciously vague file. No previous unit listed. No combat experience summary. No clear rank. Just the designation, special training. She was assigned to a private room at the end of Block D, the area reserved for experimental personnel, not formation assigned. Small in stature. Hair tied low. Sharp eyes, but not cold. She didn't talk to anyone. On her very first day, when she requested to try the 1,600 meters shooting test, the range officer laughed. That M24 weighs more than you do, sweetheart. Take it back to your room and dust it off. In the mess hall, several male trainees made snide comments. Is SEAL training that easy to get into now? Girls who play airsoft get training too. She didn't respond. Just quietly finished her meal, folded her tray neatly, and left. The base buzzed with whispered astonishment. Assumptions. Some called her a diversity hire. Others wondered if she was someone's daughter getting special treatment. During morning PT, she kept up with every exercise, but the instructors barely acknowledged her performance. Adequate, they'd mark on her evaluation sheets. When equipment was distributed, she received the oldest gear. The worn-out boots, the rifle with a loose sight mount, the pack with frayed straps. She never complained, never asked for better equipment, never demanded equal treatment. She just adapted, fixed what could be fixed, worked around what couldn't. Other trainees began to notice something unsettling about her silence. It wasn't submission, it was patience. The kind of patience that comes from experience. But experience in what? During weapon maintenance sessions. Her hands moved with mechanical precision. She could feel strip an M24 in complete darkness. When asked how she learned that skill, she simply said practice. The range master noticed she always requested the same shooting position, the one with the worst wind conditions. When questioned, she replied, "Comfort zones don't exist in real situations." Her PT scores were consistently high, but never exceptional, as if she was deliberately holding back, staying just below the radar of attention. Have you ever been underestimated just because people didn't know who you really were? Comment, I won't explain, I'll prove. I once met a female shooter at a training course in Texas, who no one had ever seen her. Nobody knew anything about. She didn't share anything personal. But when the wind picked up, she shot through 2 layers of wind barriers at nearly 2,400 meters. Then she just quietly cleaned her rifle and left. The instructor whispered to us, "We just learned the biggest lesson of the day, not about technique, but about silence." The dead shot under pressure test, shooting targets at 1,900 meters after a 6-kilometer run. No electronic scopes allowed. Nina signed up to attempt it, even though she was still classified as a civilian observer without official acceptance. When she stepped onto the range, a training instructor blocked her path. "You don't have clearance for this test. This is SEAL only." She nodded, stepped back, then turned around and placed a small device on the monitoring table, plugged it directly into her M24. Nobody knew what it was. A signal recognition light appeared on the board. ID linked, confirmed. Shooter Vulture 9. Status active, confirmed hits, 327. The entire range fell silent. A lieutenant colonel stood up, hands shaking. "Call records immediately. If this is who I think it is, we're all standing in front of someone who shouldn't have been asked to leave." The file opened. Nina Valdez equals Black Vulture combat operations in Sudan, Yemen, Colombia, Iraq from 2015 to 2021. MIA missing in action, 2022. Identity erased during SD9 operation. The numbers on the screen weren't just statistics. They were lives. Enemy combatants eliminated with surgical precision across multiple theaters of war. 327 confirmed kills, each one a shot that likely saved American lives. Each one taken from distances that most snipers only dream about. The training staff scrambled through classified databases. What they found changed everything. Black Vulture wasn't just any sniper. She was part of an elite elimination unit, so classified that most Pentagon officials didn't know it existed. SD-9, the Shadow Division 9, operators who functioned in complete anonymity. No official records, no public recognition, no failure tolerance. They were ghosts who eliminated threats before they became headlines. And Nina Valdez had been their top asset. The same woman they'd been treating like an inexperienced recruit had spent 7 years conducting precision eliminations in the world's most dangerous conflict zones. The woman they'd given faulty equipment to was capable of making impossible shots with weapons held together by duct tape. The woman they dismissed as a diversity hire had kept more soldiers alive than anyone else in that room. Word spread through the base like wildfire. Suddenly, the mess hall went quiet when she entered. Trainees who had mocked her now avoided eye contact. Instructors who had dismissed her performance began reviewing her evaluation sheets with new understanding. Every adequate score now looked like evidence of their own incompetence. How do you properly evaluate someone who's already operating at a level you'll never reach? But Nina's behavior never changed. Same quiet meals, same patient demeanor, same willingness to work with inferior equipment. The only difference was the weight of everyone else's stares and the growing realization that they'd been privileged to train alongside a legend, without even knowing it. The base commander called an emergency briefing. Senior staff huddled around classified terminals, reading reports they'd never seen before, mission summaries that read like fiction, elimination records that defied belief. One report detailed a single-shot elimination at 2,847 meters in adverse weather conditions. Another described neutralizing 3 targets in sequence, without repositioning. Each mission summary bore the same signature. Vulture 9. Mission complete. The psychological profiles painted a picture of someone operating beyond normal human limitations. Stress tolerance in the 99th percentile. Decision-making speed that bordered on precognitive. Physical conditioning that allowed for impossible shots from impossible positions. And now she was here, asking only to share what she knew. The base commander came directly to the shooting range to confront Nina. "Why didn't you reveal your true identity?" Nina replied, "I don't want to return to the battlefield. I just want to pass on what I know, if they need it." Trainees and mid-level officers stood stunned. Mocked her now, couldn't look her in the eye. A staff sergeant whispered, "I'd heard about her, but I thought it was just legend." Another asked quietly, "How did she survive the SD-9 incident?" Nina didn't answer. She just pulled out the cloth wrap for her rifle, printed with the words, "To survive without being seen is to walk with shadows." The commander bowed his head, then nodded softly. "You're not a trainee. From now on, you're a high-level training asset." But the story behind SD-9 was darker than anyone imagined. In 2022, the entire Shadow Division 9 had been compromised during a black operation in Eastern Europe. Intelligence suggested a mole had leaked their positions. 12 operators went in. Only one came out, Nina Valdez. For 18 months, she'd been presumed dead. Her identity was scrubbed from all official records. Her family was told she died in a training accident. She'd actually spent those months in hiding, recovering from wounds both physical and psychological. The 327 confirmed kills weren't just numbers. They were ghosts that haunted her sleep. Each face remembered, each decision questioned. She'd requested to disappear completely. No pension, no recognition, no official existence. The military agreed. It was easier than explaining what SD-9 had really been doing. But Nina couldn't completely let go. She'd spent 7 years perfecting the art of precision shooting. 7 years developing techniques that could save lives. That knowledge was too valuable to die with her. So she'd created a new identity, applied for civilian technical specialist status, found her way to training bases where she could quietly pass on what she'd learned. Not as Black Vulture, the legendary sniper, just as Nina, the woman who wanted to help. The base commander understood now why she'd hidden her identity. Fame would have been a prison. Recognition would have meant interviews, ceremonies, political exploitation. She'd chosen obscurity because it was the only way to truly serve. "What do you need from us?" the commander asked. "Nothing," Nina replied. "Just let me teach the ones who want to learn." The training staff faced an unprecedented situation. How do you integrate someone whose skills exceed your own instructors? How do you maintain chain of command when dealing with someone who'd operated at levels most officers never reach? The solution was elegant in its simplicity. Nina would remain Nina. No special rank. No official instructor status. Just an advisor who happened to be available when needed. The trainees who'd mocked her now faced a choice. They could let ego prevent them from learning from the greatest sniper of their generation. Or they could swallow their pride and become students of a master. Most chose wisely, but some couldn't handle the humiliation of being taught by someone they dismissed. Those who stayed learned more about precision shooting in weeks than they'd learned in months of conventional training. More importantly, they learned about humility, about the difference between confidence and arrogance, about how true professionals carry themselves. The first lesson Nina taught was simple. Forget everything you think you know about shooting. We're starting from the beginning. Some trainees bristled at this. They'd been training for months. Why start over? The answer became clear during the first exercise. Nina had them shoot at standard 100-meter targets, but with their non-dominant hand, while standing on one foot in 25-mile-per-hour crosswinds. "If you can't hit a target under artificial stress," she explained, "you'll never hit one when your life depends on it." The lesson wasn't about shooting technique. It was about adapting to impossible conditions, about finding accuracy when everything around you is chaos, about the mental game that separates survivors from casualties. By the end of that first session, even the most arrogant trainees understood they were in the presence of someone operating on an entirely different level. Nina stayed not as an official instructor, just providing morning training support for the female recruit group. She didn't use the name Black Vulture. She just signed the training board as N. One early morning, when the temperature hit 6 degrees Celsius, she went to the practice field and found a female trainee sitting alone, crying. She sat down beside her and asked, "Are you afraid of being left behind?" The girl nodded. Nina said, "Don't wait for someone to extend a hand. Pull yourself up." From that day, a group of 3 trainees began waking at 4 a.m., training with her without needing to register. The sessions were different from official training. Nina focused on the mental game, the psychological preparation that separates good shooters from great ones. Shooting isn't about the rifle, she told them. It's about controlling everything inside you while chaos happens around you. She taught them breathing techniques developed in combat zones, how to find calm in the middle of adrenaline storms, how to make impossible shots when lives depend on precision. But more than technical skills, she taught them confidence, real confidence, not the loud, boastful kind that covers insecurity. The quiet confidence that comes from knowing exactly what you're capable of. One trainee left a note in the shooting room. "No recognition needed. But thanks to you, I didn't quit." Word of the morning session spread quietly. Soon, male trainees began asking if they could join. Nina never said no. Her only rule: leave your ego outside. Bring only your willingness to learn. The sessions became legendary among trainees, not because of who was teaching them, but because of how much they learned. Nina had found her purpose again, not eliminating targets in foreign countries, but developing the next generation of defenders, teaching them to be better than she'd been, to carry the skills without the scars, to serve with precision, but also with peace. She transformed from Black Vulture, the weapon of war, into Nina, the teacher of warriors. The unofficial training sessions grew into something unprecedented. Trainees who had struggled with confidence found their voice. Those who had relied on bravado learned the power of quiet competence. The shooting scores across the entire base began improving dramatically. But the most important lesson wasn't about marksmanship. It was about leadership through service. About how true strength is measured not by what you can destroy, but by what you can build. About choosing substance over spectacle, results over recognition. Nina had found something she'd lost during her years as Black Vulture. Peace. Not the peace of retirement, but the peace that comes from knowing your skills are being used to create rather than destroy. And somehow that felt like the most important mission of her life. Some people get admired for talking loud. Some people get respected for doing the work. Nina Valdez didn't need titles, didn't need recognition. But every year at the SEAL graduation ceremony, when the MC asked, "Who was the first person to inspire you?" many graduates would simply say, N. Nobody knew for sure where she went after that. But on the door of the shooting room, faded writing still remained. 327 shots taken. 327 people who believed I could. The legend of Black Vulture lived in classified files and whispered stories. But the legacy of Nina lived in every precise shot taken by the soldiers she trained. In every life saved by techniques she'd shared. In every moment when someone chose quiet competence over loud performance. True strength isn't measured by what you destroy, but by what you create. Subscribe to The Ordinary Heroes. We tell stories that shouldn't be forgotten. Real people. Real courage. No mass AI. No mass AI. No mass AI.